My house is stone, your ivy grows, and now I'm covered in you. Hi, hello, how's it going? It's Lo. In the last week, something happened that shook the foundations of book Twitter. And that something was an anime stan account with the name of bigolas, dickolas, wolfwood. And they posted the following tweet. Read this. Do not look up anything about it. Just read it. It's only like 200 pages. You can download it on Audible. It's only like 4 hours. Do it right now. I'm very extremely serious. And then they follow it up with, grabs you personally by the throat. You will do this for me. You will go to the counter at Barnes & Noble. You will buy this. I will be greatly rewarded. I echoed this sentiment immediately. But this tweet went like mega viral, and This Is How You Lose the Time War, the book, actually skyrocketed to the bestsellers list on Amazon, and everybody is just like, how can I get my bigolas dickolas moment? And I'm like, what the fuck? Sometimes book Twitter often sucks. Book Twitter. Oops, I'm supposed to take my mood stabilizers. Speaking of mood stabilizers, book Twitter. I was talking shit about book Twitter and my camera suddenly died, which is interesting. Anyway, like I was saying, book Twitter is not usually the nicest place for you to be around. It's full of people who sometimes should just be quiet. Sometimes silence is a blessing, and not everything warrants your opinion. And sometimes the things that warrant your opinion are things where you're not giving your opinion on. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But sometimes book Twitter provides us with things like bigolas, dickolas, wolfwood, making one of my favorite books be the top list of Amazon's bestseller. And sometimes it's worth it. All of the drama and all of the stupid discourse and all of the stupid TikToks that I'm forced to see because people are not satisfied in leaving them behind on TikTok, it's worth it for moments like seeing Barnes & Nobles put stickers like approved by bigolas, dickolas, wolfwood on top of the cover. It's A+. And so I saw this take place and I was like, what a better opportunity to reread this book. And I'm gonna tell you, it hits even better a second time around. It's just so fucking good. It's just so fucking good. Oops, my lipstick. So let's read the synopsis again, shall we? So we can talk about the gorgeousness that is This Is How You Lose a Time War. In the ashes of a dying world, Red finds a letter marked burned before reading, signed Blue. So begins an unlikely correspondence between two rival agents in a war that stretches through the vast reaches of time and space. Red belongs to the agency, a post-singularity technotopia. Blue belongs to the garden, a single vast consciousness embedded in all organic matter. Their pasts are bloody and their futures are mutually exclusive. They have nothing in common, save that they're the best, and they're alone. Now what began as a battlefield boast grows into a dangerous game. One both red and blue are determined to win. Because winning is what you do in war, isn't it? A tour de force collaboration from two powerhouse writers that spans the whole of time and space. So, this, at first, might seem like a lot of mumbo-jumbo. In the words of Doctor Who.
From a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
Which I will tell you is not usually my cup of tea. I like Doctor Who alright, but when it gets really heavy in the wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff, it's too much for my head. I like the episode with the weeping angels, but it's very confusing to me. Whenever you get into time magic or time travel or just time stuff, it gets very confusing to me, and I don't necessarily like it. It's not usually something that I reach for. Exceptions will be made to Slaughterhouse-5. Usually the timey stuff, not my cup of tea, but this book, though. I want to thank Bigolas Dickolas for spreading the word, because this book is everything and a little bit more. I've talked about this book like once in this channel when I read it the first time, And I talked to like very briefly about it, so I was like, I'm gonna talk about it again because I love this book so much. So This Is How You Lose a Time War is a story that is told through letters between two characters who are on opposite sides of, you guessed it, the Time War. Red belongs to the agency, the organization called the Agency, and Blue belongs to an organization called the Garden. And the interesting thing about it, and going now on why this book is just so fucking good and why I think that it resonates with so many people, I think that how the agency and the world building and the garden, they're just so woven into the characters. Red and Blue are on opposite sides of the war, and one day Red receives a letter from Blue, and it thus begins the great letter exchange of the story. So why is this book so brilliant? I have a couple of theories about it. First things first is absolutely the writing. The writing in this book is marvelous. Like, I have no words to explain. Like this part right here. So let me be clear. I like writing you. I like reading you. When I finish your letters, I spend frantic hours in secret composing my replies, pondering ways to send them. I can trigger any combination of chemical ups and downs with a carefully worded phrase. A factory within me will smelt any drug I seek. But there's this rush in reading and sending, against which no drug compares. I am yours in other ways as well. Yours as I watch the world for your signs. Apophenic as a haruspex. Yours as I debate methods, motives, chances of delivery. Yours as I review your words by their sequence, their sound, smell, taste. Taking care no one memory of them becomes too worn. Yours. Still, I suspect you will appreciate the token. Or this part right here. I feel you, the needle of you, dancing up and down thread with breathtaking abandon. I feel your hand in places I've touched. You move so fast, so furious, and in your wake the braid thickens, admits fewer and fewer strands, while garden calls thunderclaps and bids me to deepen my work. I like to think of all the ways I could have stopped you were I so inclined. Sometimes I am inclined. Sometimes I sit here stationary, and I know you so swift and sure and think I must prove myself her equal again. And the sharp electric ache to stop you just to see you admire me is kind of a needle too. It's purple prose that doesn't feel dragged on. It's purple prose that feels effortless. It feels like it was made, it just burst out of the authors. Like they made no effort to compose this. Like, it feels so easy and so sweet to read that even though it's a very difficult topic, at least for me, again, because I'm dumb, it's so good. It's so fantastically written. And I hate when people try to do purple prose that feels like it was hard work to do. And this doesn't seem like it at all. It doesn't seem like the authors were like pondering. It seems like the story just flowed out of them. And it's just so beautiful. And the resources that they use, like the ways in which you can see them falling in love by the enunciation of their letters. Like, they begin with like, Dear Red and Dear Blue. And then they move towards different names and then towards different pet names. And then eventually one of them is like, Dear Sugar Maple. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, sometimes they say like how the prophets would say, and then they use a song lyric. It's so genius. It's so good. The writing is brilliant, and that is despite the book not having much to go on in terms of world building and plot. You guys all know I'm a sucker for good world building, and I love me some good plot, but this book doesn't have much of either, and that is okay, because it's very simple. There is the Time War, and there is the Agency, which is all mechanics and gadgets and technology and whatnot. And there's the garden, which is just organic matter and stuff. And that's basically what you have to know about the story. So we have those two sides of the war, and those two sides who are like this organic side and this technological side who are like opposites to one another. This organic and inorganic duality. And these two characters are fighting in this war, and they're good at what they do. And then they start changing letters, and there comes this relationship. That's basically the plot. And like, what is the point of the war? How did it start? When will it end? Where did the sides come from? Like, none of this really matters because it doesn't matter to them. And so because it doesn't matter to them, it shouldn't matter to us as readers as well. Like, you don't have to get the specifics of it. Like, you don't even have to truly get it. You don't have to get it. I know I didn't get a lot of what's happening. What you have to get is that all of this stuff can't fly through your head, and that's kind of the point. You have to feel untethered in this story. You have to feel ungrounded. And the only place where you can feel grounded isn't the relationship between these two characters. And I feel like that's on purpose. And it's just so beautiful because what it reminds me of is, you know, when you have like those abandoned places that nature slowly but surely starts to take it back. It's almost like the image that it comes to me when blue starts to grow into red, because this is the movement where it happens. Like blue starts to grow into red. And if you take blue out of red, there will be no blue. But red also has to change to allow to blue to bloom into her. And it's so beautiful. And it just reminds me of, listen, imagine that I'm very delicately holding your face between my very cold hands. It's very cold today, so my hands are very cold because I have very thin fingers. So imagine that I'm holding your face very carefully, and listen very carefully what I have to say. This book is the book version of Ivy by Taylor Swift. House want to know? I'll meet you where the spirit meets the bones, in this faith-forgotten land. In from the snow, your touch but brought forth an incandescent glow, tarnished but so grand. I mean, so yeah, it's a war. It's the goddamn fight of my life and you started it? Like... I mean, it's just so perfect. It's just so perfect. It's so perfect. Eu coringuei pouquinho ali, né? Meu Deus. Then we have the second reason, which is why I think that this book is so great and why people love it so much. Because it's the experimental nature of the storytelling of it. And there has been this controversy on book Twitter, as always, about this agent being like, oh, being an agent is a job, being an author is almost like a hobby, something like that. And a lot of people were understandably very upset about it. But at the same time, it got me thinking on how the publishing industry works, because it ends up having very standardized takes on what is marketable and what isn't, and it ends up not being willing to take risks. A book like This Is How You Lose a Time War is a risk. Of course, it could have gone really badly. It could have not sold anything. I could have been sitting here doing a rant review on This Is How You Lose a Time War, on how it's stupid and how it didn't work and how I couldn't understand a thing. But it didn't work like that because the book was really good. So it's a gamble that worked because it's experimental and not a cookie cutter formula, which is just granted to make money, but it's experimental and it brings something different. And when it brings something different, it brings a lot of brilliance to the table as well. And this is why I've been trying to get myself more into indie and self-published books, because I feel like when you're not with the constraints of traditional publishing, it's easier for you to have stories that break from the mold and stories that are interesting to be read. And so I've been trying to get more into it. Now, I know that sometimes it doesn't work as it should, and I end up with the Hermione and Snape fanfiction, or that one British Museum visit book. I haven't gotten over any of those, by the way. They still haunt me. And I'm reading another one that is haunting me called Haunting Adeline, which is... What I'm saying is sometimes experimenting is a mistake, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes experimenting brings us to things like This Is How You Lose a Time War. And I wonder how many similar books are being lost to the careering trenches because the industry as a whole, but agents and publishing doesn't want to take a risk. and it will only take risks from authors that are already set. And so you can't allow people to have this brilliance on their own, if it makes any sense. I know it seems like I hate indie and self-published stuff. It's not true. I don't hate it. I just don't talking about it much. But that's gonna change. That's gonna change. I'm gonna talk more about indie and self-published books because I feel like they deserve it. I've read some good stuff. But what I want to say is that sometimes publishing itself stifles the possibility of having books that are this brilliant. And I feel like this is bad for everybody, really. Anyways, what I wanted to say, this is a quick one. This is a short one. I just want to say that if you're not doing anything with your life, or even if you are doing something with your life, you should stop what you're doing and immediately go pick up This Is How You Lose the Time War to read. Because it's brilliant, and it's amazing, and it's extraordinary, and it's one of the best books that I've read in my life, and I absolutely adore it. So you will go and you will pick it up and you will read it, and I will feel great about myself. Okay. Anyways, this was today's video. Again, this was a short one, just so I could actually word vomit my love for This Is How You Lose the Time War. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to have early updates on my videos, also updates of my cat who is sleeping now and I will not wake her up, you can follow me on Patreon. If you want to commission me to review or beta read or sensitivity read, you can find all of the information of my Ko-fi. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!